All right, welcome everybody back to the channel. It is me, OC Steve, and I have a special guest because we're going to be talking. We're going to be doing a little bit of crystal ball analysis and future casting about the future state of Comic Cons. I have one half of Ahrendt and Stuff here. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the Renaissance guy who is bringing you Type 1 in 2022. Sean, thanks for coming on, man.
My brother, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. You're huge impact, huge part of Ahrendt and Stuff. So thank you.
I'm the stuff. You guys bring the art.
Stuff. Yeah, you're our stuff.
So I try to bring a little flavor to their Wednesday nights, being kind of the guy on the street. But I invited you on because we're going to be talking about comic book conventions. Obviously, as the world is reopening, this is kind of becoming a point of conversation, at least in our own geek culture community. And you have a background. You've helped produce that. So why don't you shed some light on your background with that?
Yeah, so I've been doing the convention scene for a while now. And a few years back, I got a representative, an agent, Heather Reed of ACES. She kind of brought me in as not just be talent, but as well as just helping out with planning stuff, helping out behind the scenes. And about 2 years ago, I had an idea to start our own comic convention down in Lewis, Delaware, called Geeks at the Beach. And it took us from when I thought of it to the day we actually had the show. It was 3 months and 2 weeks. That's not ideal planning, but it went off without a hit. No, not one bit. But when you're excited, you just got to go for it when you have an idea. Went off without a hitch. We learned from minor mistakes. We got some really good feedback from the people that exhibited at the show. And we started off doing it. We partnered up with an animal shelter. So if people brought food for animals, toys, whatever it may be, you got a little discount to come into the show, and surpassed our imagination way so much. So that felt good on that part. And it was just one of those things where it's like, all right, the next year for 2020, you regroup, you rebuild, and you plan for bigger and better. But unfortunately, with the last year, that didn't happen. So we had to put that on hiatus as of now.
And then the slate is obviously for 2022 to get that back on track and get that rolling.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do it 2022. Where we're looking for a bigger venue. We got some pretty cool guests already lined up. Hearsay. We got to talk to them again, but it's going to be a good time, and it's going to be one of those conventions where it's for the geeks, by the geeks, and like a family oriented type of show as well. And that's really important.
Kind of like the bread and butter before media really started dominating like the larger cons, like the Comic-Con, the WonderCon, and that stuff at whole. And even pre-advent, to kind of date ourselves with social media, that was geek social media. You looked forward to seeing your friends, talking about trades, waiting in line, having those conversations with fellow fans, and just kind of chewing the fat almost on your favorite comic book while you were waiting for either a writer or an artist.
Right. I've met a lot of people just online waiting for certain creators. Some I still keep in touch with, but that's what's really fun about the conventions, because you talk to another fan about a certain creator that you're both ecstatic about, and it's like, wow, and you're just building up, and then you meet the creator, and it was all worth it, standing on those 4-hour lines just for an autograph in the hand.
So it's like a lot of people don't get a lot of the times that was the fun of the cons, not all the media blitz, not the trying to push your Instagram or anything like that, just going to enjoy the ride, going for the social experience, like not being like a treasure hunter when it comes to exclusives or swag or anything like that. It's more just literally like a geek family reunion, like what you're talking about.
Right. And the real treasure hunt were the diving in the long boxes, looking for that Werewolf by Night 18, the 2-part of Tomb of Dracula, or whatever comic you're interested. Like the hunt was the real thing for that certain book.
And that's how I found my copy of New Mutants at a San Diego Comic-Con, the first issue of Cable. Like, It was just sitting there. Like, it was in pristine condition. I remember getting that like in Comic-Con like 2010 when I was there.
Okay.
And that's when Wizard World came to Anaheim in 2011. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a good copy. You know, like I was looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is all right. And then, you know, Rob lives here in Orange County.
Yeah.
So he looked at it and he was kind of giving it a once over. And he's like, dude, this is a good copy. You should CGC booth right down the way.
Right.
And that was one of the few times that Wizard World came in, and I enjoyed the vibe of that con because it was a little more, you know, less like intense. Like if you had to put them on a scale.
Yeah, they were really good shows when they kind of started out because they were the traditional Comic-Con with Artist Alley, with independent companies and comic books and all that. But now it's more of a press release, and you get to when you first walk into Wizard, it's like, here's the cast of the CW's whatever hit show it is, because they're kind of partially owned.
Here's Arrow, or
yeah,
you know, here's the Flash, or
while that's cool, that's not really for Comic-Con in a sense. Like the Artist Alley and all the comic book stuff was what we call Skid Row now. You know, like you had to go hunt for it. You like we'd be in the back, and it's like, as a businessman, sales weren't as good because people were spending their hard-earned money already on the celebrities and stuff. So it was kind of a little bit of a deterrent where it's like, I don't know if I want to do this personally ever again.
And that kind of comes into the subject that I was going to start addressing, because, you know, obviously at this time of year, this would be the start of your con season, your preparation, getting involved in everything. And so Deadline put out this article, and a lot of people are interpreting it in different ways, that Marvel Studios and DC's Warner Brothers side of things, respectively, have pulled out of Comic-Con this year. And everybody's kind of worrying, like, what's the future of cons going to be? Like, they've left. And I'm not one of those people that's too concerned with that the sky is falling. I look that it's, you know, it's an opportunity for cons to go back to basis. And I think a lot of their reluctancy really comes from the fact that they didn't want to participate in this. They didn't want to do the whole Comic-Con at home virtual event where it's just a lot of stuff that's in the can.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, like, there was a couple of neat ones. I did watch it last year, but they were all kind of pre-done Zoom meetings or this, that, and the other. But I think the real thing that they're not addressing about it is that Marvel doesn't really have a whole hell of a lot in the can for the next upcoming year. Neither does DC. Mm-hmm. These guys sat on these movies for like about 18 months. Your Black Widows, your Shang-Chi's, your Eternals. You know, they don't have a whole hell of a lot left to bring out these casts and announcements, because a lot of this stuff is either in pre-production or in production right now.
Mm-hmm. You are spot on the money.
So, I mean, that's what this year's going to be. And if you look at it, for the most part, it's kind of, my assumptions are right, because you can go on Unofficial Comic-Con blog, and they've kind of broken down what's going to be at the virtual at home experience. But a lot of the stuff is TV shows, your Bob's Burgers, your American Dad, your Family Guy, your Walking Dead, the other spinoff, the Fear the Walking Dead, and then the other spinoff of The Walking Dead, which is set in the future. So it's a lot of shows, very little comic books at your virtual Comic-Con experience, you know?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, where's the comics? You know, it's all media.
And then the only other thing that they've really brought out that's going to have fans back is WonderCon Anaheim, which, being here in Orange County, I always buy a ticket to. It's one of the easier SoCal cons to get tickets to attend. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy this because it's more like what you were describing, like with Wizard World. It's more about the Artist Alley. They have a big, strong Artist Alley, independent booths, where you can just go have a good time and bump into people and have those conversations like we were talking about. Like, I found out, me being an LA Kings fan, there's an artist over there that kind of does zombie photos, but he had this really great lithograph of when the LA Kings won in 2012, and it shows Dustin Brown holding the cup. And that's how I met that guy. Like, I just started talking to him. Like, just, you never know where your other parts of your passions and your hobbies kind of intersect. And those are those fun con experiences that are not like, oh, I'm hunting for a Funko, or, you know, I want to get to a booth, or I want to do something stupid, you know, like it's, if you miss the floor show, you miss half the show, is kind of how I look at it.
I'm with you. You're preaching the truth as far as I see it.
But what I think, at least in my own projections now, what they're going to do is that Disney's deciding to recoil. Marvel Studios, I think the future is, at least in my mind, is that they're going to be leaving Hall H in the foreseeable future. They're slowly going to be pulling out as an exit strategy, and they're going to be funneling themselves into kind of canned events like this D23 Expo, where they know that they have a candid audience that's not going to be too critical. Because I know in the infancy, when they brought stuff out to Comic-Con, you kind of lived and died by the sword that way.
Yes.
You drop a trailer in Hall H, it was either thumbs up and it was going viral for good, or it's going to be Kibble Smith's new woke warriors. You're going to get slammed and you're going to find out about it real quick, like in a New York minute.
Truth. I live by that. Believe me.
But I think that's where they want to keep it in this echo chamber, because they don't want to have any criticism. They know they got Disney fans that are rabid for the product, that are just, you slap the Disney logo on it, no matter if it's good, bad, or in between, they're going to be singing your praises. So what's your take, you think, moving in that direction?
I think they're just taking they're taking that part of the market, like you were saying prior, and they want to control it. It's like they don't need San Diego anymore, and it's like it's a business, and they're taking their business, and they're taking it to a degree where they control everything, where they're able to make sure things are peaches and cream, if you will, where nothing will be bad, or like they're controlling the narrative, like we spoke prior, and that's safer for them, and it's just them just evolving, good, bad, ugly, whatever you want to say.
I think the other half of it is that when you're talking about, they want their share of the pie, they want the profits.
Sure.
I mean, Disney's a business. It's like, oh, I can charge you directly to come to my con that has my content and my products.
Right.
And I still get it on the back end. I get to control the narrative, like you're saying, and I get money, and I don't have to give it to the city of San Diego in the process.
Yes.
And we've seen in the last couple months too, there's been rumblings that obviously Marvel wants to go to Penguin Publishing, which is kind of an interesting take. So the major part of it's the media. They're really not caring too much about the content of the comics. And that's just kind of throwaway announcements that they throw on the internet now. Like, they don't even want to bother having open forum panels, because I think the other half of that, when it comes to the comic side of things, is that they're worried about the conversations. They're worried about the open forum. They're worried about people like me and you putting our hands up and going, who is the Hellfire Gala for?
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not for you. I don't think it's for anybody, but that's just my opinion.
It's just kind of like, virtue signaling at this point, because it's not X-Men. It makes me reluctant as a kid of the 90s growing up, when my brother was older, him giving me his long boxes of his runs of New Mutants, Jim Lee's X-Men, and now this is what X-Men's come. Like, I got that. I collected during the astonishing kind of new X-Men run.
Okay, yeah.
So that's kind of my generation of X-Men, and now I don't know who this generation of X-Men's for.
I don't think they know either.
And I don't think they want another comic book, like, especially the store owners and the solicitors raising their hands going, I can't sell this.
Yeah, I've heard stories about summits, about the retailer stuff, and like behind the scenes, it gets kind of dirty. It gets nasty. And
then DC's kind of just doing the topographical one if they do another fandom, because they did that twice last year with they kind of had their canned con stuff, and they're like, no, we're going to be exclusive onto ourselves. We're going to do these two events, and we're going to hit home our own movies, our own TV, our own cosplay, and have a trickle of comic books somewhere strewn along the way with all that stuff. I mean, it just felt very sterile. Like you're talking about, like, there's no room or margin for error. So if anything goes sideways, we're controlling the narrative.
Right. They see the comic book as just a tax write-off, because they got the movies, they got the toys, they got the lunch boxes, they got the clothes. That's what makes the money for them and for the shareholders. Comics just seem to be like, just kind of hold the IP to some degree.
Just to keep it so it doesn't go into public domain.
Right, exactly.
But so in closing, what I wanted to talk about is that vibe is going to be carried on for the Fans Fest. It's kind of this mythical event that's been talked about for like the last year and change, if you will. This is kind of like the idea of EVS, Ethan Van Sciver, who's kind of spearheading this idea to have a convention for Comicsgate, crowdfunded comic books.
Right.
And to crowdfund. No worries. To crowdfund the convention, actually get fans to invest their dollars to get this thing to get off the ground. So a lot of people don't have to put out their own hard-earned money.
No, you're right. And I remember a couple of years ago, wow, when John and Mark were fulfilling Graveyard Shift Volume 1, I helped them, gave them a hand with that. And John had brought that topic up of doing the convention or doing some sort of meetup. And this is in the early stages of everything. And like here we are now where the ball is starting to get rolling. It's really exciting. And it's cool because like you and I, we're YouTubers. I guess you could call us that, not just artist, fan, whatever. Like, and we have a friendship, and to be able to meet meet in person, how cool is that? You know, like we
just share a drink, hang out, have that just kind of chew the fat.
Yeah, it's like we're buddies already, but now we could. It's like let next round's on me. Like it's cool.
Which is kind of the neat thing with like John's tier with Graveyard Shift. He has that exclusive gold shirt where he's hoping that he has the problem of having enough people back at that tier level over the last couple Graveyard Shifts where he's all like, I'm going to just have to buy a keg for people because I promised everybody a beer. So I get to throw a party at some bar and make their night and then have them wonder in the course of this conversation, what's this all about? Why is everybody wearing these badass Dracula looking logo t-shirts all hanging out? And it's like, oh, it's about comics. So we get to create our own narrative where we get to start bringing properties that we enjoy as fans in Comicsgate out to the forefront and take over a bar for that night. And that creates that conversation amongst average going fans or people for that matter, Yeah,
it's going to be a great time. I'm really excited.
But the swag bag, the way how he wants to do it, the way how he wants to create, that artist alley again for what you're talking about and really encourage people to come and to have it at a low margin where it's economically feasible for people like you to be talent and have a booth there. Yeah,
because a lot of the times in the beginning, a lot of it came out of my dime, like the traveling or the hotel or the table. Now that I had somebody promote me, show by show is variable, so it's a little bit better. But yeah, if it's got to come out of my pocket, it's kind of hurts a lot, because I'm not a big name, like I call myself a con artist, a convention artist, and a lot of guys do that, and it's us trying to chase our dream.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with some of the larger circuits here in like SoCal or nationwide. You already have to be a big established brand name just to get a booth and just to have a presence there. And you have to have this massive media campaign behind you. You have to be a guy like an Alex Ross or, like a Todd McFarlane or a Frank Cho who has enough money in the bank to cash it out there and be able to afford all that ahead of time. And especially with Southern California, it's not easy with the tax. They don't give you any tax breaks whatsoever.
Sounds like Jersey.
But at least with it being in Florida, with that there, with the less of the sales tax restrictions, it's a benefit to you guys. Yep. And you can pass that on to people like myself who are attending the convention. So you don't have to bump your prices up. And you have one fan who goes to a con, buys your art book for maybe like $30, but because you're here in San Diego during Comic-Con weekend, that same book now has to be maybe $45.
Yeah. And it hurts doing that. Like, it's like, I want to give the best I can for the lowest possible price point. But again, it's a business and it hurts the fans a little bit and a lot. It hurts the fans in their pockets. So they're able to spend more on maybe somebody else, you just got to try and find a way to make it so everybody can get what they want.
Yeah, so I look at it as a bright opportunity. I don't look at it as, Warner Brothers and Disney pulling out as the end of comic books. It's going to go back to the norm that we had. Mm-hmm. And me being kind of like a seasoned vet going along with my brother for, I would almost say I went to like Comic-Cons for 20 years. Like my teenage into my 30s, I've gone to San Diego Comic-Con and I've seen it evolve in different ways, shapes, or forms where you could spend like $20 at the door. You got in, no problem. To them slowly, scaling it back where you had to go online And then now it's kind of like this Hunger Games, like may the odds be in your favor to get registration just to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, that's happening right now, I believe, for even like New York Comic Con. Like my brother-in-law was saying, like, I've been in the queue since 10 in the morning. Has anybody whatever? And it's like Saturday sold out already. It's like, what? That's wild.
Yeah, and if you want to get preview night, you got like it's almost like being Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. Like you got to collect all the other nights to hope that you get the one night for preview night. And they've even had to do things where they've told like exhibitors, like, hey, you can't sell all your exclusive items on preview night anymore. You have to dole out portions for each day with Comic-Con now.
Yeah, and that hurts the business too. You know, it's like, oh.
Yeah, like you got to sign that agreement almost that you're like, I'm only going to sell X amount of my exclusive. So if I have 400, I can only sell 100 a day.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's weird with the evolution of things that are going on. But I think with them departing, it creates an opportunity for comics to come back as a comic book convention. Yeah. And with Comicsgate creating for the Fans Fest, it's only helping people like you, people like Joe, like Mark Polton, get those opportunities to get in front of other fans that maybe don't necessarily pay attention to your product or know too much about it to actually, there's proof in the pudding, as I like to call it. Like you physically see a book, you physically see the product, you get another set of eyes on it while they're just cruising the convention floor, and it creates new fans for you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait for all of us to get together and just have a great old time. So
in closing, let's hit home. Like what crowdfunding wise, I always like to end this with the focus of being Comicsgate, because I'm trying to, with my little fledgling channel here, I'm trying to dispel the myths about Comicsgate, and just that we're a group of collective people and consumers, fans, creators that just want to have fun. And we want to make books that don't preach and go back to, I pick up a book with some escapism, get to not see the outside world for a bit and get to turn my brain off and enjoy some comic book action.
Heck yes.
So right now you've just put out, or it's in printing, Type 1?
Yeah, it's the preview book for my upcoming Indiegogo campaign, Type 1. It's an ash can. It's the first 15 pages, black and white, lettered. I just got back some edits on the lettering from my letterer Dexter Weeks, so we should be going into production of the file format soon and sending it off to the printers. And I really can't wait to just start fulfillment and getting everybody's thoughts on it, because it's the first scene kind of sets up what the book is about. It's a throwback to the 90s comics and cartoons that I grew up on and loving. I'm not trying to write Shakespeare, but maybe a little bit of Boys to Men in there, a little bit of flavor in there. And it's everything that I love about all of that. Some like Mayan and Aztec lore is hugely part of the backstory. It's a story about an uncle raising his nephew, a personal story that just kind of throwing in there. And I'm a diabetic, and I created the character when I was a kid. And I thought once I was a diabetic, I was redrawing him. I'm like, why isn't there a character like me? Now, does that sound like panderism or whatever the word is that people? Maybe a little bit, but I'm telling my story. I'm not selling you to get diabetes, but like I'm trying to tell a fun story for escapism for mostly kids that had to deal with this, because I got good days, I got bad days where I can't get out of bed because my levels yo-yo, and I just wanted like a good escapism for anybody that enjoys fun comics.
Yeah, and I've said it myself, and it's kind of my own personal tagline. I back the book, and I'm a type 2 diabetic, so I don't necessarily have those, mine's a little bit more in check, but I always like saying that this type 2 back type 1. So I'm hoping once I get that in my hand, we can have you back on, kind of go over that, kind of chill with that, and kind of talk about like the plans that you have moving forward for that campaign next year. Yeah. You're also, like I said before, one half of Art and Stuff that airs
and stuff with my co-host Joe M. Sontag, whose campaign Reaper Destroyer will be dropping in April of 2022, I believe. And him and I, we've been friends for a long time. We met through my brother-in-law, Bruce, who was the original inker on Reaper Destroyer back in 06, 07. And Joe and I had been friendly. We had a great rapport. And I don't know if you noticed, but he was in a band.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. He did music.
And it wasn't a Limp Bizkit cover band. No,
it was actually talented music. Yeah, like real rock and roll, you know. So once he settled down, got out of the band life, he got back into art, and we've always been each other's biggest cheerleaders. And then last year he's like, we should do a show. And I'm like, cool. I'm not going to do anything. You set everything up, and it's been going very well.
I'm just there.
I'm just there. But no, like it's cool. Like we get artists on. We're bringing on more of the fan community on our Wednesday hangouts, and like sometimes we gotta throw like we pull a friend card to some of like the higher artists, or like, would you mind
somebody a little bit higher on the food chain of
of
crowdfunding?
So, and you know we got a lot of great reception. Like, and it's a lot of fun. And at first I was very worried about being on camera so often, because I am really camera shy, even though I don't come off like that. It's a lot of fun. You're always there. You promote us, and we're all friends, and it's just good times in art and stuff. And I think that might separate us from a lot of the other shows, because we were already friends. We already had.
But I think I look at it this way. I look at it that your guys' friendship shows. You know, there's a lot of people that just kind of come together once a week,
which is fine.
Are not really friends. They don't really talk to each other outside of the fact that they host a show.
Right.
And there's natural chemistry because you guys have been friends for so long, and that you invite people to the conversation, and you're genuinely inviting them on. Like me, I'm just a dude off the street, but you bring me on to kind of throw in my 2 cents, maybe talk about some pop culture stuff, because just to keep the conversation going, keep it a little bit more lighthearted, so you're not talking shop too much, you know?
And you're funny.
I'll take that. Yeah. So let's hit home. Let's wrap this up. Where can they find you on your social media, Sean?
Sure. On Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Sean Ahrendt. I got to start working on my YouTube channel, but most importantly for myself is art and stuff. We're almost at 300 subscribers. Thank you to everybody that hangs out with us, hits the like button, subscribe, and all that. Joe and I are beyond grateful, and we're really thankful. We're having a great time. It's good. We're in a renaissance, and we're surrounded by really good people.
Well, I'm glad to be a part of that ensemble. I appreciate your time coming on here, man. Kind of bring in some of your background, and as it goes, we'll keep talking about the geek news. So as always, everybody, like, share, subscribe, throw some comments down. I'll have links for Sean's social media on the description below. But as always, thanks for watching, and have a good one. We'll catch you on the next video, everybody.
See ya.